Ladies and gentlemen, gather around because what happened on Lorraine Kelly's ITV morning show yesterday has absolutely shattered the internet and left the entire nation completely speechless. The legendary Sir Cliff Richard, the eternal bachelor of British pop, the man who has sold over 260 million records worldwide, the Peter Pan of pop who has been in the spotlight for 65 unbroken years, was literally escorted off the set of Lorraine Live on air after an explosive, unprecedented, white-hot confrontation with Lorraine Kelly herself that escalated so fast that producers had no choice but to pull the plug and remove him from the studio, something that has never, ever happened in the 25-year history of the program. Viewers watched in absolute horror as the usually unflappable Lorraine, who has interviewed everyone from royalty to Hollywood A-listers without ever losing her composure, turned bright red, slammed her cards down on the desk and told Cliff in no uncertain terms that his behavior was completely unacceptable and that he needed to leave immediately. The cameras kept rolling for another 8 excruciating seconds as security appeared from the side wings and gently but firmly took Cliff by the arm and led him away while he protested that he was being censored and that the truth was being silenced. Social media exploded within minutes. #Cliff kicked off Lorraine was trending worldwide within 15 minutes. Clips of the moment have already been viewed over 42 million times on TikTok alone, and even Piers Morgan jumped in calling it the most dramatic morning television moment since the Megxit interview. But how on earth did we get here? How did a simple promotional appearance for Cliff's new Christmas album turn into the biggest television scandal of 2025? Buckle up because I'm about to take you through every single second of this unbelievable meltdown in forensic detail. The background to this catastrophe actually started months ago when Cliff's team contacted ITV desperately trying to secure promotion for his brand new album Christmas with Cliff 2025, an album he has been teasing as his most personal and spiritual record ever. Insiders say Cliff was absolutely adamant that he wanted to appear on Lorraine because he has always had what he thought was a warm relationship with her. They have done countless interviews together over the decades. Lorraine has always been gentle with him, always respected his privacy, always laughed at his jokes even when they were a bit naff, and Cliff genuinely believed that Lorraine was one of the few presenters who truly understood him. But what Cliff didn't know was that Lorraine has changed in recent years. She has become much more outspoken on social issues, much more willing to challenge guests when she feels they are being evasive or problematic, especially on topics like women's rights, LGBTQ+ representation, and the Me Too movement. And Cliff, who has spent his entire life dodging questions about his private life, refusing to address decades of rumors about his sexuality, and maintaining this almost monastic public image, was walking straight into a lion's den without realizing it. The booking was confirmed 3 weeks ago. Cliff flew in from his home in Barbados especially. He was in high spirits, posting Instagram stories from the ITV studios showing him waving his new album and writing "Can't wait to chat with my dear friend Lorraine this morning." He was wearing his trademark bright blue suit. The big white smile was plastered across his face, and the producers were thrilled because they knew the ratings would be massive. Cliff still pulls in the older demographic like nobody else. Everything seemed perfectly normal right up until the moment he sat down on that famous purple sofa. The interview started exactly as everyone expected. Lots of nostalgic chat about the old days, Lorraine gushing over how incredible Cliff looks at 85, Cliff doing his usual modest routine saying it's all down to tennis and clean living. They laughed about the Devil Woman video. They reminisced about the time they duetted on Mistletoe and Wine back in the 90s. Lorraine even brought out a cake with candles because yesterday was the 65th anniversary of Move It hitting the charts. Cliff was beaming. The audience was loving it. The chemistry seemed genuine. And then Lorraine made what turned out to be the fatal mistake of asking Cliff about the modern music industry and whether he thinks enough has changed for women since the days when female singers were treated so badly. It was meant to be a gentle segue into talking about his new duet with a young female artist on the Christmas album, but Cliff immediately bristled. He started talking about how in his day everyone was respectful and there was none of this cancel culture nonsense, and then he said something that made Lorraine's eyebrows shoot up. He said, quote, "These young girls today, they wear practically nothing on stage and then complain when people look at them. In my day we had modesty and dignity." Lorraine tried to laugh it off, but you could see she was stunned. She very politely pushed back, saying that actually a lot of women felt pressured to dress provocatively by male executives and that times have thankfully changed. But Cliff doubled down. He started going on about how political correctness has gone mad and how nobody can say anything anymore without being attacked. That was the moment the temperature in the studio completely changed. Lorraine's smile vanished. She put her cards down very deliberately and said, "Cliff, with respect, I think you're missing the point entirely. Women have been fighting for decades to be taken seriously and not treated as objects, and comments like that are exactly why we still have so far to go." Cliff looked genuinely shocked that Lorraine was challenging him. He has never been spoken to like that on morning television in his life. He started getting defensive, raising his voice slightly, saying that he has always treated women with the utmost respect and that he refuses to be lectured by someone who wears short skirts on television herself. Yes, he actually went there. He pointed at Lorraine's legs and said, "You can't have it both ways, my love." The audience gasped audibly. Lorraine went completely silent for a second and then unleashed the most ice-cold response imaginable. She said, "Cliff, I have been on this program for 25 years wearing whatever I like because it's my body and my choice, and nobody, least of all a man who has spent 70 years refusing to answer a single question about his own private life, gets to comment on what women should or shouldn't wear." The studio went deathly quiet. Cliff tried to interrupt but Lorraine just kept going. She brought up the historical allegations against him, the Operation Yewtree investigation, the BBC scandal, everything that he has spent years trying to put behind him. She didn't accuse him of anything, but she very pointedly said that perhaps someone who has been at the center of such serious questions about privacy and consent should think twice before lecturing women about modesty. Cliff completely lost it at that point. His face turned purple. He stood up halfway out of his chair and started shouting that this was an ambush, that he had been set up, that Lorraine had betrayed him after all these years of friendship. He accused her of being part of the woke mafia that wants to destroy anyone who doesn't conform to their agenda. He actually said the words, "You people will not silence me." The producers were frantically making cut gestures behind the camera, but Lorraine just stared him down and said very calmly but very firmly, "Cliff, this interview is over. You are being incredibly rude and I'm not prepared to sit here and be spoken to like this on my own program. Please leave." And then the most extraordinary thing happened. 2 security guards appeared within seconds and started escorting Cliff off the set while he was still mid-sentence protesting that he was the victim here. The camera stayed on him as he was led through the studio doors, still clutching his Christmas album like a shield. Lorraine turned back to the camera and said with the most professional smile you have ever seen, "Well, that was unexpected. Let's go to a break and when we come back we'll be talking to the wonderful Olivia Colman." The switch to the commercial was immediate, but not before millions of viewers had witnessed one of the most jaw-dropping moments in British television history. Twitter absolutely imploded. Celebrities were picking sides within minutes. Piers Morgan called Cliff a legend for standing his ground. Lily Allen called him a dinosaur who finally got called out, and Lorraine herself posted a very cryptic tweet 2 hours later saying simply, "Sometimes you have to draw a line." The fallout has been nothing short of seismic. ITV released a statement saying that they do not tolerate abusive behavior towards staff under any circumstances and that the decision to remove Sir Cliff Richard from the studio was made in accordance with their duty of care policies. Cliff's management immediately fired back, calling the treatment of their client disgraceful and accusing Lorraine of orchestrating a deliberate character assassination to boost ratings. They have demanded an apology and are reportedly considering legal action. Meanwhile, Lorraine has received an absolute tsunami of support from women across the country. The hashtag #HashUsAndWithLorraine has been trending for 24 hours straight. Thousands of women have been sharing their own stories of being patronized by older men in the industry, and sales of Cliff's new Christmas album have completely collapsed. Amazon has already removed it from their top 100. Radio stations are quietly dropping his classic hits from their playlists, and bookers are saying that he is now effectively unbookable on British television. Whether this is the final chapter in the extraordinary career of Sir Cliff Richard remains to be seen. But one thing is absolutely certain, Yesterday morning on live television, Lorraine Kelly did what nobody else has ever managed to do in 65 years. She finally made Cliff Richard lose his composure in public, and in doing so she may have just ended one of the longest and most carefully protected careers in show business history. The king of clean living has finally been dethroned, and the queen of morning television has shown that even at 66 years old she is not here to play games. What a moment, what a legacy, and what an absolute masterclass in not suffering fools gladly.